What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Hangover. My name is Daniel. Alongside with me, as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how are you doing on this Victory Monday?
Well, that was my first time hearing that new intro music here. It had a little bit of a country twang to it. You know, country boys, we'll survive. I like it. And like you said, it's nothing better than the Victory Monday.
100%. You got it. Yeah, I kind of like it too, man. It's pretty catchy, so to speak. And speaking of catchy, the performance that the Pittsburgh Steelers put on this weekend, if that can continue to happen, we're going to have a really, really good season. Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Los Angeles Chargers 20-10 in a game where the Pittsburgh Steelers literally beat up the Los Angeles Chargers. First and foremost, where'd you watch the game? How'd you enjoy it? Any highlights of your day yesterday while watching it?
Well, I was supposed to go to the game, and it didn't work out that I was able to. So I watched it with the family, and we had a family in from North Carolina for the weekend and had a really good weekend. And so that just topped it off, that beautiful Steelers victory.
Oh yeah. Myself, we ended up watching it here at the house. We have a usual tradition where we go out and get something, and as usual, it gives me heartburn as well. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. This time it was pizza, and it did the job. But so did the Steelers. They end up winning. Everybody. What's the topic on everybody's mind? Fields had a field day against the Chargers. Did he do enough to earn the starting job, in your opinion, Shannon?
Yes. My thing is, all the things that people want to say about him, and I've said all along that I wanted him to be able to sit and learn behind Wilson in a low pressure, but sometimes life has other plans. So he's been thrown out there. Well, what was his number one bugaboo? As he was turnover prone. And so the first two games, they did not have a lot of faith in him. They opened up the playbook more. If you look at the passing chart today, it was beautiful. The whole field was utilized. And we've seen, if you throw over the middle, it can be tipped, it can go up in there, it can be intercepted. But they still didn't pull back the reins. They still give him the freedom. And then he hit Austin with a pass across her for the long touchdown. So they didn't live in their fears, finally. Because I do believe that comes from Tomlin, the top. Comes on down. And I think he let Arthur Smith call his game plan yesterday, and Fields seemed very comfortable. And we said before the season, this is going to be a top-notch defense. We were right. The offensive line will be struggle at first, but it will improve. So far, we're seeing that, even with the injuries. What we didn't know, is there a guy on the team who could be that game manager at quarterback and potentially even maybe a franchise guy for in the future? And I think we're starting to find out some answers. So that was what was most exciting to me yesterday.
Yeah, I really do echo a lot of what you're saying. For me, I think he's done enough. I think that's it. QB is here. And if he continues in this trajectory, get him a contract at the end of the year to keep him longer. This guy has all the flashes, all the intangibles. He can do everything. And you're right. The only thing that was really affecting his game up to this point had been the turnovers, sometimes even the sacks. And what I saw about his performance yesterday that really instilled a lot of confidence in me and to the kid was the fact that the way Los Angeles was attacking him, they weren't letting him run around. They weren't letting him get around outside of the edges. He had to stay in the pocket, and he had to do it with his arm, and he was able to do so. Had, I think, at one point 10-10 on completions, which is amazing. He had the one turnover, which, it was probably not the greatest or the smartest idea. However, that ball definitely had an opportunity to get smacked down by Najee Harris. It didn't happen. It ended up being the turnover. Defense bailed him out. But what I really liked about the Steelers after that is that they didn't tuck their tail in and turn into, check down Charlie or turn into a conservative offense. They continued, and even in the third quarter, it seemed like now they're playing to win instead of playing not to lose. And I truly enjoyed it, and I thought that was the next step in this young man's career. And I think that's it. I think he's number one from here on out. Russ, I was looking forward to seeing what he had to do. I thought there was that opportunity, but he's just not there yet. And, I know there's a lot of speculation out there that maybe perhaps the Pittsburgh Steelers were doing this on purpose, but I've heard a lot of insiders that have seen him practice, and he's not moving the same. So he's definitely hurt. And so what's the next move or next step? What do you want to see next out of Justin Fields in these upcoming games?
I was so impressed with his composure. After the game, he said it himself. He said, I'm more confident and more comfortable by the week. And they showed multiple times. Tony Romo pointed it out 2 times in the game that he went to his third progression. He would start looking to his right, and they had taken that pass away. He'd come back to his left, and then he actually completed the ball over the middle. And he was putting really accurate throws in there and had some zip on that ball, as we've seen. He's got an excellent arm. If he can progress, I mean, right now that's not his strong point, but I obviously don't think you could say it's his weak point either right now, because he did settle in that pocket. When he had protection, he stayed in there and went through his progressions, and oftentimes went to his second or third read. We did not see that at all in week 1. And then we've seen maybe a couple times in week 2, but the second half was so discombobulated that, so this week we actually got to see that he does have it in him. And now I think that if they could get some health, there's so many injuries on both sides of the ball, but the offensive line is not even, they have not had their line together yet this year. Obviously the plan was not to have Spencer Anderson starting and Fautanu to be out for the year. I mean, there's just been, it hasn't even been a perfect environment, Daniel, but he's still flourishing.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
I agree. And you also have to take in consideration the wide receivers outside of George Pickens and what he was able to do with them. He made them look very good this past weekend, or they made him look good, one or the other. But Scotty Miller came up with a huge third down pickup. This was, the Steelers offense had been sputtering early on in the game, and this is what led to the first score up for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that third down play, if he gets tackled there, it's 4th down, it's a field goal. It's a different feeling, going into the half 10-3 versus 7-10. And, I thought he played very well. He was constantly getting open. So was Calvin Austin. Do you think that the Steelers still maybe need that wide receiver too?
I think it's one of them things it would be nice to have. I think if the right opportunity presents itself, I don't think that they're right now that they're desperate to get that guy. Mm-hmm. I think they, again, we got to remember Roman Wilson, even though he was cleared Friday, he was still inactive. But I think with a full week of preparation, we might finally get to see him this week. I think Roman Wilson can be a guy who can be a main contributor, especially with his blocking ability. And we know that some plays that had a potential in the first 2 games to be bigger runs and bigger plays, Vance Jefferson missed blocks. Calvin Austin, who's really diminutive, he had trouble completing his blocks. So Roman Wilson is a really good blocker. He's got a little bit of that Hines Ward in him. So I think we're, right now the Steelers aren't desperate. But if, one of these teams right now, we're seeing some bad football tonight. Mm-hmm. One of these teams fall out of playoff contention, and they might be looking to move some guys, and they might have a nice wide receiver too fall in their lap.
That is true. I think the reports early on was that at some point this year that the Pittsburgh Steelers were confident that they were going to land a wide receiver before the trade deadline, and that's quite a bit of ways away from now. And speaking of Roman Wilson, he was a healthy scratch this weekend. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Steelers needed to get another defensive lineman out there, expecting a lot of the running game from the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that after Van Jefferson's injury, I think they see the need to have him out there. I think he's going to address this upcoming week. And I'll say this, after Calvin Austin scored his touchdown, he went on to the sideline and he was, doing his, yeah. And he came up to Roman Wilson. And, I thought those guys were about the same size, but they're not. Roman Wilson's significantly bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Than
He's
Calvin
more
Austin.
Hines Ward size. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm excited for him to finally make his Steelers debut. He's been dealing with the injury, and you kind of touched on this a little earlier. Pittsburgh Steelers have had quite a bit of injuries these last couple of days. Update, Troy Fatuanu ended up having he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Now there's reports that he can make a return if the Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs. But the Steelers make the playoffs and everybody's healthy and they're playing well. I don't think you want to mess up that and towards that end of the year. But apparently he had his kneecap dislocated, and this was one on the opposite leg that he had injured in preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any concern on the potential injury prone status that maybe be following Fatuanu now because of these knee injuries, or do you think this is just part of the game and hopefully he gets them out of the way now and we won't see these anymore?
Well, he had been flagged in the pre-draft evaluation process. And one of the reasons they said he fell to where he did, where the Steelers could get him, was because of a knee concern. And it could have been, you don't know, loose particles or maybe a little bit of a loose joint. And but I don't know which knee it was. They don't really give out that information readily. But this is nothing. Dislocated kneecap can happen to anybody. They'll go in, clean it up. If there's any damage that needs to be repaired. It's a tough break. I'd like to see him be utilized this year because he's definitely a very talented young man. But better it happens now and get there. Just kind of like with Corey Trice. We seen, he missed all last year, but he's contributing this year. He goes, his injury he has right now is not a knee, thank the Lord. But same thing with Fatuanu. I think he's destined to be a really good starter with the Steelers if he has any injury luck moving forward. And I don't think this means he's injury prone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what I'm hoping for as well. Get both knees taken care of. If there's some stuff you got to go in there and clean up that maybe you were planning on doing after the end of the season, go ahead and do it now.
Yeah. Yep.
Knock all that stuff out and come in strong. If the Pittsburgh Steelers end up needing you in the playoff time, if there's a need for him to come in, by all means. I thought Broderick Jones played well in his replacement, and I think he's only going to get better. I think he sees that, especially now with Fatuanu out, that his position is going to be the right tackle position for the remainder of the season, unless Dan Moore ends up going down with an injury, and then I'm sure there might be even more of a change up there. But this is going to be his position. I think he's accepted that on a short week with short notice being the starter. I thought he played well. We didn't see 3 penalties in 6 plays, so that was another plus.
He really, Joey Bosa had the misfortune to line up across from him because we seen a different Broderick Jones. He was not happy. He had to talk about and answer questions and all week long about that terrible series. And from the opening, his punch, his physicality, everything looked different. And I was concerned about those pass rushers. Now, Moore struggled with Mack, but Bosa, he got hurt really early in that first drive. But part of the reason why is because Jones planted him.
Mm-hmm.
Jones really, as you say, had a bounce back performance.
Yeah, I think so as well. And there was more swapping around this time at the left guard position. Spencer Anderson and McCormick end up having some time with each other or playing the position. Najee Harris had a lot of positive things to say about McCormick. If Samuelu was out this week, we're already seeing a transition, getting McCormick more in there. We've seen the running backs talking about his ability to block, especially in the running game. Do you think that maybe we're going to see more of a position change here between McCormick and Anderson? Or do you think that Anderson did enough to keep his job this week if Samuelu's not back? Because there's a good chance he could be.
Yeah, hopefully he's back. I thought that Anderson, he left the game for a little bit, and they brought in McCormick. But I don't think it was performance. I think he was injured because he limped off the field. I think he was dealing with he tweaked something. I'm not sure, but he was able to come back. If you watch McCormick is a beast. I think he's going to be such a good player. I've said before, I think the Steelers got 3 starting offensive linemen out of this draft, which is incredible. But McCormick is very raw. If you watch, go back and watch. McCormick is either bulldozing guys or looking for somebody to run over. He's like a rhinoceros. But his technique is not clean. And there was a couple of times he totally whiffed. I love that intensity. I love the physicality, but he's more apt to blow an assignment and blow up a big play, let's say on 3rd down. You go to McCormick if necessary. And the more experience he gets and the more practices, and they're working with him, and he's going to clean that up. But he did come from a FCS school. So I would stick with Spencer Anderson. He's more clean in his technique. I think he's more reliable. And I think he played some of his best football yesterday when he was in the game. And I fully expect him to start again if Samalu can go. But we're really, really close. And if we can get Samalu in there to line up next to Frazier, who, again, as I've said, and I'll say it again, was our best lineman by far yesterday. Frazier is the real deal, guys. And if you get him, Samalu, and Daniels all working in unison, man, that interior line's been improved this year. It's going to be even better when you get those 3 guys back.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm super excited for the return of Samalu. And I say that the possibility of him returning is I think it's high. The Steelers ended up not putting him on IR for a reason. If he was going to end up taking 4 games off, then they would have put him on IR. They didn't. So I think they anticipate to have him this week and at a better time because the running backs, they seem to be going down and they're going to need somebody to end up opening holes for them. We're going to talk about that and much more after the break. So please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a few moments. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Hangover. We appreciate you guys staying with us. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, steelcurtainnetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Make sure you go and check that out when you're done watching this podcast or listening to it, wherever you're catching this podcast at. And go check out all the breaking news articles, the injury updates, everything else that you want to get to know or want to know about your team. It's there. So go check it out, steelcurtainnetwork.com. All righty, Shannon. So a lot of injury news coming in from the running back position. Jaylen Warren was pulled from the game, according to Mike Tomlin, because he saw that he wasn't as fluid as he normally has been. Come to find out, he's going to get an MRI on his knee. And Najee Harris was seen today with his arm in a sling. How concerned are you that the 2 running backs that are supposed to be this, pound and dash, so to speak, are both kind of dealing with something right now?
Well, that's concerning because it's 2 of your best offensive weapons. And we want Fields to have his full allotment of weapons. And I'm not as concerned about Harris. His style of play and like at the end of the game or that run down to the 1 foot line, he was dragging about 5 guys and they all fell on top of him. And, he probably got a little hurt wing there, but I think he'll be fine. Warren is a little more concerning because he tweaked his knee and then he was able to come back. And now it's a little bit worse, maybe now, he said, than it was the first time. So he might have to miss a little bit. And
I think the first time was a groin.
Well, was it a groin?
Yeah, it was a groin.
Okay, well, then he's probably – because he said it was a little bit worse this time, I thought, is what I read. But we need him healthy. If you got to put him on the 4-week hour to return, I think you do it. Make sure that you have him healthy for the latter part of the year. Hopefully it doesn't require surgery or anything of that nature. But, we know groins can be very fickle.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's better and you get back out there and, it happens again. Or you like Cam Hayward last year, you never fully get back. So But I mean, Patterson did a really good job there at the end of the game to help them run out that last 5 minutes. But I know they got a couple of guys on the practice squad, so they would try to ride with that. But you want Harris healthy and being your bell cow right now if Warren's out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. I think Warren is going to be the one that's a little bit more concerning right now, and I think more so than anybody else, he's probably a little bit devastated about the news with the injuries that he's had. But these are all so far. I mean, we haven't gotten the results yet of the MRI, but it didn't sound like it was anything too serious. So at the end of the day, these injuries that he's dealing with are either going to, well, he's going to have one or two things. Either he's going to let it heal or he's going to come back early and they're going to nag. Either way, he's going to miss some time. Might as well get healthy all the way. Mm-hmm. We saw, like you mentioned, Cam Hayward, who by the way, this year is unbelievable. This last game, he made a tackle through the guard.
He took on the tight end, which was a joke. I couldn't believe. I said, that tight end, that's like Calvin Austin trying to block TJ. I mean, so he just handled him. Then manhandled the tackle, and the way he was doing that, being engaged, he just slid over and made the tackle the running back. I'm like, that is the Cam Hayward we're used to seeing. When if he can continue to do that and stay healthy, then he's worth every penny. And I love the contract they signed him to because it's fair to both parties. It's fair to Hayward. It's respectful of his legacy, but it's also fair to the Steelers if for some reason he couldn't make a complete recovery. But as you say, one thing about it, I've always said, pound for pound, the dude's one of the strongest guys in the NFL, bar none. And we're seeing that. And I seen maybe, I don't know if the burst is the same as it used to be, but he is picking guys up and driving them into the quarterback's lap. And that's making it to where they can't step up. And so when Herbig and Watt and whoever's coming around the outside, there's the quarterback sitting right there because they can't step forward because Hayward's just crushing it. And so's Benton. I don't know if people's paying attention, but Benton's throwing guys around too. He looks like a young Hayward.
Yeah, he definitely does. Dennis comes in with a $2 super chat saying, anyone think Cam is old now? He's silencing a lot of the naysayers. That's for sure.
Oh yeah,
that is for sure. I was impressed with his performance. I thought he did excellent. He even had a sack on the game as well. A lot of people.
He passed Harrison, didn't he?
I think he did.
I think he passed Harrison finally. Yeah.
I think he finally did. He ended up with a sack, and defensively they did great. Bad news on the defensive side, though. Alex Highsmith goes down with a groin injury, and this one appears to be somewhat serious. One of the more of a few weeks type of thing. Maybe even, from what I've heard from those that have talked or seen him in the locker room, it sounds like it's not a minor groin injury. But Nick Herbig comes in, performs at an elite level, especially on the passing downs or the passing situations. Yeah. The only concern I think that most people are going to have now when it comes to Nick Herbig is he going to be able to seal off the edge, close to or as the same as what Alex Highsmith was able to do. Now, Alex didn't have all that splash or not that much splash as far as, sacks this year or last year, but he's been almost impossible to run around. Are you at all concerned about that for the next few weeks without Alex Highsmith, or do you think Herbig's going to be able to fill in the role pretty respectfully?
I think he's definitely going to be able to fill the role. He's substantially smaller, but way faster, way quicker. He can use that kind of like Greg Lloyd used to. Greg Lloyd was a smaller edge guy, but he was able to set a good edge just because it was hard to block, and he would get around them blocks. And we got to remember he's playing next to Hayward. So Hayward is going to be able to, really help whoever is there at that right edge. And now you have Patrick Queen, Landon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, and hopefully at some point maybe Cole Holcomb. But you're going to have a deep move, can get to the ball. I finally seen the Patrick Queen I wanted to see yesterday. The first 2 games, Queen really wasn't impactful. But yesterday, Patrick Queen made an impact. He was so excited to play in front of the crowd in Pittsburgh. He was aggressive. He was to the ball. He was laying licks on people. He opened the game with that huge hit. I don't know if you remember, but the first hit of the game was when he laid that running back out, Dobbins. And that's the Patrick Queen we've all been waiting for.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. When I saw that first play, I was looking forward to seeing some replays on it. I wanted to see that. That was I was like, come on, man, show the replay on that. My wife missed it. I jumped up and I'm like, yeah, that's what we're talking about, right? Because I was excited throughout this game. I was ready. I knew this was going to be a hard-nosed football game, and I knew that the Steelers were going to go out there and make a name for themselves. And I got excited right off the bat. That was the tone. He had an opportunity to make that interception. It kind of went through his arms. But overall, like you said, I think his presence was there. He was a presence on the field. And I think that he's starting to understand this defense and where everybody else is at and what they're doing. I'm really looking forward to what he's going to be able to do. Peyton Wilson was out there. I haven't seen that much of an impact, but then again, you're not hearing him for bad things either. Mm-hmm. We're not hearing him getting beat or getting run over or anything like that. But I think maybe perhaps this game plan against the Chargers, knowing that we're going to be running the ball a lot more and playing more base defense, I think this was more of an Landon Roberts game. Yeah. I thought he did well too. He was out there. He was fast. Cornerbacks look good. What did you think about the middle linebacker position and the overall pass defense this past weekend?
Oh, like I said, there's a lot of routes that when the offense sends out 3 receivers, whether it's 2 wide receivers and a tight end or whatever, the Steelers have blanket coverage and double team all 3 guys because they double team them with the corner and anything in the middle of the field. It's both middle linebackers are doing an excellent job settling right in there and taking those throws away. And so, as you said, Queen could have easily had an interception yesterday. And I bet you he don't miss the next one like that. I think it was just kind of startled that it was such a great opportunity and he kind of missed it. But I love it. I've been wanting a faster, quicker back 7. You want faster, bigger cornerbacks and more ball hawks at safety. Well, they've got that. We're seeing Fitzpatrick be able to play what he's best at. And teams still avoid him because they know what Fitzpatrick can do. But Elliott is also a ball hawk. So if he gets a chance, he's going to take advantage of it. And I just thought that the linebacker play was physical. They was multiple times we talked about it watching the game yesterday where they engulfed. Like TJ come around and made Alt look bad on that one sack. And when Heineke had to come in, and he just engulfed him. He put them, kind of like what Jack Lambert used to tackle people. Yeah. That condor wingspan and just wrap up. Well, Queen did that earlier in the game to the running back. And it just wrapped him up, and the guy just disappeared. I love just hard-nosed, physical, fundamentally sound football. And we're seeing that this defense is dominating all the time, but especially in the second half. This defense is just shutting people down.
Oh, yeah. The second half and each of these games have been stellar performances by the defense. Nothing better than this last game. Wes brought it up a little earlier. -5 yards in the second half for total offense for the Los Angeles Chargers. And, I mean, if you're going a little bit further, J.K. Dobbins had less than a 3-yard average, I think 45 yards total. He was averaging 9.9 yards per carry going into this game. And the Steelers just put him down. Now, prior to this game, Joe Alt, as you brought him up, and there was a little slogan going around called Joe Alt Delete, and he was deleting the pass rushers. If he didn't get injured, the title of this show was going to be Joe Alt Deleted because TJ Watt deleted him out of there. What
Yeah,
was your
yeah.
reaction when TJ Watt got the sack, when they finally had him on a one-on-one? Because the entire game up to that point, it was a chip after chip on TJ Watt, pushing him back into Joe Watt. Got the opportunity on the one-on-one and made him pay for it. What was your reaction during that play?
Watt could easily have 2.5 sacks officially. He had one play where he made all look bad early, and like I think it was the first or second series, and he hit Herbig right when he let go of the ball, and then they're like, "Uh-oh." So as you say, then it was chip. Then they got to where they needed some more guys out in the route quicker, and then he made him look really, really bad. And of course, then when he sacked Heineke, but then he could have had a half sack on the one they give the whole sack to Hayward. Now I was perfectly fine with that because Hayward did deserve that sack. Yeah, I mean, Alden is an incredible athlete at 6'8", and whatever he is, 330 or 320. I mean, that kid is going to be great, and he is really good. But again, you're talking about a different type of animal. TJ is, well, I think Romo said the modern day LT.
Yep.
If you really, I mean, I know Garrett's had some foot problems this year and different things, but let's just be honest. If you watch all the edge rushers and you say Micah Parsons, let's say, or Micah Parsons, he doesn't have the power TJ has. He doesn't have the ability against the running game that TJ has. There's no weakness to TJ's game. And he's only getting better and coming up with even more moves as a pass rusher to where he goes up against people consider Alt to be the highest graded offensive tackle for pass blocking that they've had for a good while coming out of college. And he shut the first 2 weeks, he shut people down. He gave up no pressures. And well, Watt put quick work to that, didn't he?
Oh yeah. I was pumped up. I saw a lot of other reactions on the X, on the Instagrams, people just jumping up like, yeah, take that, because everybody heard it all week. Yep. Joe out delete. He's taking out all Mark Crosby and all these other edge rushers that are high profile guys, but there's nobody better than TJ Watt.
Nope.
You can't compare what you did with somebody else to it's like racing a Camaro and thinking you're going to beat a Ferrari. It's not going to happen, And so, with that being said, we have another $5 donation from Dennis. He comes in saying, "We know Greg Roman's offense. I knew we would dominate." That was what they were being called, right? Ravens West or something like that. A lot of the Ravens players, their philosophy. I was not surprised that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to go in there and take care of business, especially against an offensive scheme that's well known to the Steelers, that is.
I don't know if you heard, but 2 days before the game, I guess it was Friday, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, of course, played for the Ravens, played for Roman, and they were like, "We know the Steelers, we know their weaknesses, we know the blah, 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 blah." And I guess because J.K. had some good games in the past. Well, as you said, they shut him down. And then today, Tomlin said, well, in the past, he had some big games against us because we wasn't scared of him. We were more worried about Lamar Jackson. So I think that probably really was a slap to the ego for JK. Because, here he is running his mouth. Well, he goes out and he gets shut down. And then Tomlin's like, we really wasn't worried about him. We was always worried about Lamar.
Oh, yeah. Mike Tomlin, he's got some shots.
Yes.
I don't know if not talk about the old quarterbacks of the past, but there was an interview with Rich Eisen not too long ago when Rich Eisen was asking him about Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and he asks how he's going to make that decision, yada yada yada, and he goes something to the effect like, it's a challenge, but this challenge isn't like challenges in years before when I had two unattractive options. I have two options that I can go with. And the only thing I could think of was like, dang, that's a shot at Kenny and Mitch Trubisky right there. The two unattractive options, having to choose between the lesser of two evils. That's what that was. And then today or yesterday, when he comes in with that comment about about J.K. Dobbins and his running game.
Yeah.
Dude, he's a master at that. I love the way he speaks.
He'll tinge things like that with honesty, to whereas maybe the average fan don't even catch it.
Yeah,
But if you're familiar with this rivalry and stuff that's big on, you're like, I know what he meant.
exactly. Special teams wise, Boz did well. He had one miss of 62 yards. He should have hit
63.
that. 63.
It was 63.
Yeah, I think he had enough leg. It just kind of went off to the side. Yeah. I thought he did well. My only thing is he went into the locker room pretty quickly after that. And I don't know if you noticed, but the other kicks he had weren't right down the middle anymore.
No, they weren't.
So I was a little bit concerned about that. I saw that happen. But he ended up making the rest of his kicks. Corliss Waitman, he's doing a great job holding. Maybe that has something to do with why those kicks are going maybe a little bit to the sideways as well. But as a punter, I thought he did excellent. I think he's filling in for the Cam Johnston pretty well. James Pierre, as a gunner, my man, I think that he's found his position here for the Pittsburgh Steelers for at least this year, maybe for more years to come. The Steelers love their specialty players, and if you're pretty good and you have a knack for something they need, they'll keep you on. What do you think about the special teams?
Oh, well, everybody knows what a big James Pierre fan I am. I mean, for a, say, cornerback 5 on the depth chart, he can come in, give you some snaps if necessary with injuries, like with Darius Rush out right now, still with a concussion. And we don't know about Corey Trice, how long he'll be out. Hopefully not long. But I like Pierre that way. He's reliable. But as a gunner, I mean, last couple of years, we've had Miles Boykin and James Pierre, and those two guys spoilt everyone because they would beat the ball down there. Pierre is so, I don't know what, some guys just good at it, but he can just beat the press and get away from that guy. And at least twice, he forced fair catches. He was the only one down there. If the guy would have took the chance to field it, he'd have got at least 15, 20 yards before anybody got down there. But Pierre was in his face. Mm-hmm. And when I see that they brought him back to the practice squad, I was like, he's going to solidify, because special teams have not been special, at least the coverage teams, the first 2 weeks. So having him back, you see what a big difference that made.
Oh, yeah. I thought he played very well. And then you see the fact also that, fortunately he came back, but Dante Jackson goes down for a little bit and comes back into the game. Mm-hmm. But, you have a guy in James Pierre who's familiar with the defense, familiar with the players that are around him. No, he wouldn't be a complete stranger, so to speak, if he had to play in a pinch on defense. So, I like what we saw from him. Overall, I think this team is really starting to show themselves as being a possible contender, in the AFC, not just the AFC North. I think in the entire AFC right now, it looks like the Bengals are getting their tail kicked 21-13 against the Commanders. The Ravens squeaked one. Yeah, fingers crossed. The Ravens, eased one out against the Cowboys. They're 1-2, and the Browns lose to the Giants. I mean, I didn't, as much as I was hoping that was going to happen, I didn't foresee that to happen.
I didn't expect it, no.
But it was a pleasant surprise when the game ended, and I look over and I'm like, hey, the Giants are taking care of business. The AFC North was supposed to be one of these divisions that was going to be best in football. At the week 8 mark, they're supposed to be coming in with hard knocks. Mm-hmm. Any concern for the rest of the AFC North, or is this just, I mean, I like it. I'm not going to lie. There's no concern for me, but you think those other teams are going to turn it on? How far, how comfortable should the Steelers be?
Well, it's funny. Just a quick overview. The Browns are finally starting to sink in that Deshaun Watson was a bad move, mm-hmm. which we've said that all along. But I think that the fans are starting to figure it out. And I think some of the teammates are starting to figure it out. Well, so you've got Cincy, but depending on what happens tonight, teams that start 3-0 have a really good chance to make the playoffs. Teams that start 0-3, it's the opposite. And the Bengals had that window, but what did we always say? Well, you got to pay Chase, you got to pay Higgins, you got to pay Burrow, you got to pay, all these guys. And then the Steelers went through it. Every team does eventually. And then your window gets smaller. But the Ravens are the ones that kind of shocked me because they about blew that game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar Jackson wasn't happy. He's not happy with Harbaugh. He's not happy with the offensive coordinator. He didn't like how they're calling this game. And that's your franchise guy that you're paying that big money to. And they're going to have to get on the same page. Now, can they do it? Yes. I mean, that's a class act organization. They'll always be the biggest threat to the Steelers. I mean, I've accepted that. That is I don't know if I would have given Lamar that much money because, again, I don't think he'll ever win a Super Bowl. But that's just my opinion. Because I believe that Justin Fields is a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he throws the ball better. And I believe that if he can, look at the culture that he's come into here in Pittsburgh. And he has this like father figure of a coach in Tomlin who's, everybody wants to play for. And that's why he wanted to come to Pittsburgh. And he's got an offense that really suits his skill set. And then we talked on a podcast last week. I said, I want to see some quick hitting plays with Fields to where he fakes the handoff and then he immediately bursts through. And what on that first touchdown run, he faked the handoff to Warren. Warren takes the first block and he just swings right in. And it's there, guys. There's so much you could do with that type of athleticism. And so, in my opinion, the Steelers' arrow is pointing up, and everybody else in the division is pointing sideways or down.
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think when it comes to Justin Fields, I think the difference is confidence. I think he's got confidence in the coaches around him. I think the coaches around him have confidence in him. I think he's starting to have some confidence in the offensive line and the people that he's throwing the ball to. And I think that he has it all. I think he's very accurate down the field. I think the only passes that were kind of, were suspect in the past were those middle passes that he was maybe putting a little bit too much on, those type of things. But I haven't really seen that this year from him. That one pass that was an incompletion to Pat Freiermuth in the middle of the field between defenders, that was beautiful. It
was right there. Yeah, yeah.
When I look at Justin Fields and I look at what he has, he's got the accuracy, he's got the physical ability, he's got the arm, he can make any throw on the field, and he's got the smarts too. I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration when it comes to that IQ test that the football players and the quarterbacks take before they get drafted. The one that Kenny Pickett got a 17 on. Justin Fields holds the highest ever score recorded on that. I think it's like a 140 something.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a genius. When Calvin Austin was breaking down that touchdown pass and what had required and the different reads that had to be met for that pass to be completed, I mean, he did that, and he did that really fast, and he got the ball there. If he didn't, that safety's crashing in, or he's going to miss the pass. That right there kind of, I think, in my opinion, put everything in perspective. He's got everything. He can read the defenses. He sees where he wants to go. When he's decisive and he makes that decision, bringing up the confidence thing again, he's able to get it there and accurately on time. I just think that, are there going to be some bad games? I think everybody has those, anybody that plays the league. Yeah. But I think overall, his trajectory is going to be heading in an upward trajectory. And I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are maybe have got a steal at the Bears' expense yet again, because this ain't the first one.
No, and there's a difference in not being able to do something, like let's say processing.
Yeah.
As you say, not being quick-witted enough or be able to process fast enough. That's not the problem. The problem was twofold for a guy who's as athletic as Fields. Do you trust what you see enough to be decisive rapidly? Because so many times through his whole career, from high school to college, even in the pros, it's safer to tuck and run. because, you can make something positive happen. You believe in your legs and you believe that I can take it to the house. But somewhere along the line, you're not going to be able to do that. You start to lose athleticism. All the great ones do. Then you have to be able to, the mind has to take over, and you have to have that quick processing ability. But if you really watch, we're starting to see it. And as you say, that confidence, and he mentioned it in the post game, the calming factor. That, hey, this team believes in me. They're putting me in positions to succeed. And I want to be successful for them. Not because they put a first-round draft pick on me and they brought me in to be the savior of a franchise that's never had a 4,000-yard passer like the Bears. No, he's been brought in where the Steelers they wanted him there, and realizing that he has that athleticism and hopefully the talent to be maybe a franchise guy. And it seems like it's a perfect match of talent and personality and culture. So right now I'm excited about it. I really am.
I am too. I think that, everybody else should be as well. Let's take this one game at a time, enjoy what we're watching. This team is playing at an excellent level right now in offense, defense, and special teams. I mean, this is the most complete team I've seen in a while if everything continues, and this is what it appears to be. I think they have an offense that can score and hold on to the possession of the ball. I think they have overall in every game thus far have controlled the ball in possession, have time of possession in their favor, and I think that's one of the things that this defense needed, just some breathing, sometimes to breathe. Years behind in the past, it was 3 and out, and them constantly on the field. And so now they got an offense that can be complementary to this defense that, in my opinion, is a championship defense.
And the defense rose up on that interception, and they did their job. See, in the past, if the Steelers turned the ball over, it seemed like the defense didn't even show up. They just let them go right down the field. But I think because the defense is better, if you have a great defense, you should not be conservative on offense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that people always want to put together. To me, if you got a great defense, look at Cleveland last year. They had a great defense, and they let Joe Flacco just wing it. He was throwing it all over the place. He'd have a game, he'd have 2 interceptions and 4 touchdowns. You see what I'm saying? Because they did not go conservative. I think if the Steelers of the 70s with the great Steel Curtain, Bradshaw still throw 2 or 3 interceptions every game. But they didn't turtle up. They stayed aggressive and realized, hey, our defense will pull us out. And then our offense can make a big play. So I'm hoping that we're seeing a shift in the mindset of Tomlin, and to give Arthur Smith, a little more rope, and they can trust Fields a little more. And because with the defense like the Steelers have, you score 20-some points a game, you're going to win most games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with this defense, if you score more than 15, you might be winning those games.
Yep.
Well, guys, it's a victory Monday. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Please hit that like and subscribe. Before we let everybody go, Shannon, you got any final words?
No, like I said, I know everybody, and I agree, it's early. We're 3 games in, but let's just judge everything on what we've seen thus far. And it's encouraging, and it's something that we should all be excited about. And we just need to, I don't know, I think we need to get Joe Boo and get a bucket of KFC chicken and some rum, and maybe, hopefully we get some good luck on this injury front, because it's like every week it's just multiple guys are getting hurt. And right now that's the biggest concern I have is it just seems like the injury bug's biting right now.
Yeah, I agree. And by the sound of it, don't seem like any of them is going to be anything too serious outside of the Fautanu one. That's going to be, all the other ones don't seem or appear to be, season ending. These are kind of going to be those soft tissue stuff that the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to have year in, year out. Kind of seems like a little bit more this year, but, got to give it up to that new strength and conditioning coach. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. You guys have a great night. Shannon, take us out, my man.
Woo!